Okay, I think I'll wait 5 more minutes. If somebody joins, and then I'll start. Well, maybe not 5 minutes, just yeah. Let's start. So last week I left off into working on this tool for documentation. It's a fork of this tool, and what it does is generate these docs from comments. So what we see here, well, not this one, but maybe all of these, maybe one with some more output, array. So all of this content is auto-generated from comments in the code. And what I'm working on is in extended because it's a serial configuration and I want to add some config to it and maybe ability to like different output, but for now the idea is to skip things that don't have doc comments. So for example, I think I was playing around with the index. If we remove this and then we run the docs, we'll probably get an error or something. Yeah, well, the error is not from that one, from this, no, from this file, because there is an export that doesn't have the comment in here. Hello Dima, what's up? Sure. Hello. Where you can send donations. Why would you send donations, man? You can just watch. Hello OBDeb. I don't know how to pronounce that name, man. Yeah. Just like what? Who were the hacked people that, like, Apple account and some other accounts that were hacked? Anyway, this file I should remove because I was just playing around with this. It's not part of the code. Okay. So if we run it now, it should work. No, don't go. Yeah, that works. And the diff in the docs is that all deb. All deb. Nice. So the diff, the change is that if we, sorry man, I forgot the library link. This is the library, and this is the fork I'm working on. No problem. Okay. Yes, I work at Katawiki. Okay. So back to the coding thing. We were in the index files. We removed this comment here, and that means this is not there. But in the previous version of the library, it will complain that this is not here, because every exported things and the module itself has to have this comment, and this is the minimum. But I want to remove that. But I realize that actually it might be better to make this configurable. So the other item I had in the to-do list was this is what I did the last time. So module can be skipped now, and I need to do it for all the other types as well of exports. But I realized that this should be configurable, and it should be something like thanks. Yeah, it's the project is so it's, as I said, it's not mine. It's from the author of all the functional libraries, basically, Giulio Canti. It's quite proficient, and he's the author of all the functional stuff in TypeScript. And he uses this for all his documentation. But as I said, it's zero configuration, so I don't know if this one has docs. So you cannot change anything. Oh, nice. Well, yeah. I don't participate in the triage of CVs, so I cannot say anything. Planning into forking. I don't know, because let's go back to the library. One of the goals is that it's zero configuration, and I will be adding configuration. So if this is merged, I don't know if he will want to merge it. And the other plan, but this is for the future, I don't know if I will do that or not, is to probably generate a different type of output. So this output uses Shekel and GitHub pages, and uses this particular theme, but I was thinking to use Dokusaurus or something like that, and then the generated site will be fully static without Jekyll, so it can be published somewhere else if you need. And one use case of that will be to publish internally at work for libraries that are not public. But that's more an effort. So first I want to get these two basically these the path, supported path. Now it looks for stuff under SRC, and skip the module that the things you don't want to. Okay, so I was working on start to skipping things that aren't, to not throw errors when you are not commenting everything. So for example, you see that this is here, and if we remove it, this will error. Yarn docs. So this runs the library on itself, the tool on itself, and this should fail. Yeah, it says that missing scenes tag. That's the minimum comment you need to add. But it probably makes sense that you might want to run it on a strict mode, and then you will want to have it fail like that. So what I will do first, before continue to removing this, is make it actually configurable. So yes, docs. Yes, and let's put it here in the package.json strict false. So now I need to figure out yeah, for the ones that are just joined and didn't watch the previous time, what I did is I went through the structure of the application, and it's quite of pure functional stuff. So here in the main, we define the core capabilities, are like the operations that we can take, and they are placed inside a task guider, which is a monad. It's kind of like a promise that runs operations that might fail. So we can take a look at task either in FPTS docs. Task either. So it's a combination of a task and an either. Either is type that encapsulates operations like two things, either success on the right or a failure on the left. Yeah, it is possible to do that, but I want to read it from JSON for now at least, because it is already reading the JSON. So one of the first things that the core main does is gets package JSON and then checks home page, which is something that needs to be defined in package JSON. So for now I will use package JSON just because it's already reading the package JSON, and then eventually I'll move it to its own file and more configuration will be there. Yeah, once I'm reading already the configuration object I want, I will probably move it to its own file. Okay, so back in the main, it just runs the application basically here. So we'll go to core and we'll see how it's reading. Gets package JSON. So get package JSON is an effect. An effect is basically a computation using an extender version of the task guider, which also has a reader. A reader is a monad to keep a context, and then you have access to that context, kind of like a... Oh, it's not, there is no docs here, but kind of like to avoid passing down too many arguments, kind of like dependency injection, we can say. And it injects capabilities. The error is, the second is probably error, that is a string, and A is the type of effect. So in this case, the effect is of the package JSON type, and package JSON has name, string, and home page. We should add docs. Yes, it should be unknown, and then we should decode that. And let's create a config module. Interface config 3. For now, this is the only configuration, and what I want to define is a monoid. The monoid is an interface that defines the concat and empty. So a monoid has to have a way to combine two things, two monoids, into one that is still in the same type. So for example, if you add two numbers, addition on integers is a monoid, and it also has an empty, which is 0. If you add to 0, you get whatever you added to. Multiplication or product is also a monoid, and the empty element is 0, is 1. And here what I could do is a monoid for mid monoid. What does mid monoid do? For the struct. Okay. BTS. Monoid, monoid, this thing. Okay, so this should be monoid config, monoid get struct monoid. We pass a struct of monoids. And this should be monoid of config. So strict monoid of this showing. No, not that. I want one that keeps like the second. Get monoid first. I think I'm overcomplicating this. Okay, it's not going to monoid for now. What I do need is IO. Yes, so now IoTS basically is a way to define validation, since the configuration can be anything. Hey, Adesito, thanks for the follow. So the config should be an interface that has strict, and that is Boolean. This will validate config, and actually yeah, I don't think I can answer that because I do the interviews as well, so. But I will say to just prepare like for a normal interview. Type of. Okay. Okay, so the way I'm defining the types here is with this IoTS library, also from the same author, from Boolean, and IoTS lets you decode and encode values, and the idea is that you can validate when you do IO, like getting stuff from JSON or reading a JSON file that you don't know the contents, and oops. So it lets you define these coders, decoders. So now we can do basically the thing is, the goal is that if you do JSON parse, because it returns any parse, you could say that this is config, for example, and then I could do parse strict, and then this is telling me that it's a boolean, but we clearly just decoded something that doesn't have the strict property. So what we could do instead is config.decode, and now what we get is an either with some errors on the left or the value on the right. So the cool thing about this is that we are sure that when we are on the right case, we do have the strict value there. So we need to plug this in here. Packet JSON is unknown, and then packet JSON. So we produce the effect, this effect, and I want to so where should I validate this? So I could put docs here. How can we put it here? Okay. So now we have this, which is any, but we are telling it to be an unknown actually. Package JSON. And it's optional as well. So I want to decode it. Okay, let's do something like this. Get package JSON will produce an effect as well, but this effect will be validate config. What does capabilities have? Capabilities extends modify system. Okay. But I want to put in the reader in the context, which now it's only the capabilities, which is this monad file system and monad log, and I could put it here. So I can say that since I don't know version 0.3 we have the config context, and this has config, which is defined config. So this is not effect or anything, this is actually the real configuration. Yes. But then we will get some type errors. Yes. So in index where the capabilities are defined, we should have config, which should have strict false. Oh my. What is the error now? Ends. Sure. Strict. What's wrong with this? Capabilities. Ah, come on. The context is what I want to put as the capabilities object. So now, yeah. now we add like a default config, and this is where I wanted to actually have a monoid for, as the empty configuration will be the default one. We say monoid config is the monoid of config, and for that we'll use get struct monoid. So in the strict one, what we'll do is empty will be false, and concat will be always the first one. There should be something like okay. So the way this struct monoid works is you pass a record, and for each property you pass the monoid for that property. So now if we have config a that config true and false, and we said monoid config concat a and b, we'll get strict true. Because for this property strict, it will keep the first one, doesn't matter the values. And now back here, no, here config, we can say config empty, monoid config empty, and that would be monoid config empty is basically strict false, as we defined the empty for that property to be false. And once we read it and we validate, we will be able to combine, because we will read it from one that all properties are optional. One second. Okay. I'll see if I can make that work. But for now, you need this. So we define the config as part of the capabilities, and that will be the default one. Once we, where were we? Here. So now we validate config JSON. And to validate, we chain validate. Actually, this is the part where I need to understand a bit more how reader monet works in TypeScript FPTS. So the effect it should be a function that does that returns. Okay. Thanks, Risai. By hey man, by your username, I don't know who you are. So. But welcome to. Oh, cool man. I think I've seen you in the TypeScript functional, right? Functional Slack, the TypeScript channel. Cool. Small world. Okay, but actually, I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. Because this thing, the context gets initialized. Yes, so no, sorry, validate this chat. I just copied this actually, but so get package JSON reads the JSON, and then I want to validate that the object in the doc.ts is there and it's valid. I guess I can, and then I will map the task, the reader. But map doesn't change. Just map to in reader. It doesn't change the context, of course. Was there a way to change the context? Change W. Add to the context. Okay. Maybe this is not the right way to do it. Okay, but first of all, I don't need to read the file here. Let's do one thing at a time. So in the so I have the config. And I will do config code, and then this is an either. But here I have to return a task either, so task either from either. Again. Effect is this reader task either with the capabilities as the context of the reader, the error, and A is anything. So now I have the task either with the validated config, and task either. Okay. So I could say here invalid config. Yeah, and then this will be config. Okay. But so if it's invalid, it's fine. Okay, I think this will do for now. But now the fact doesn't have the package. Okay. I need to find a better position for the mic. No, this is not even the right thing to do, validate config, because this config is the one that we put inside the capabilities. Do we actually want to validate the package JSON one? I guess this should be a function, because it takes a package JSON and returns the effect of the void no, package JSON. Map. Yes. And what we code is pkg docs.ts. But now it's where I might use the chain W. So I want to actually put the valid config that we have here into the context of the reader. So chain W get a function from A to R of B, and a reader of Q to reader given R to E. And what is the reader? It's just a function. Yeah. It's a function from R to A. But if I change the context, that's not reader monad anymore, that's a state monad. Okay. I actually cannot change the context. Or it doesn't make sense. So which makes sense. And I don't want to... Yeah, I want to replace a value on the reader context. And I realize now that that basically is a state monad if you want to change the context, right? Yeah, maybe I can't find a way. I remember replace reader monad. There is something like execute a computation in a modified environment. So there is like a way to run the reader inside, but replace. Anyway, so probably this is not what I should do, and instead I should read the configuration first. Validated, and then that would be the... Oops. Where are we? Here. So this is the context, the capabilities, the context. And I should probably do something like but even read file is in this context. Can also not place the config in here. monoid empty. See you. Thanks for joining, man. Good luck. Okay. So how do we do this? Okay. But this actually, let me see, because the code that will use the configuration is, no, it's not pure. It's everything down the chain. Check compare, read sources, uses it. There. Should run. No. Yeah. So this worked. It's not doing what it should do, but oh. So it works now. We managed to put the configuration. It's the default one still. I'm not, when I do the validation, I never swap the context one. The validated one for the one on the context. I'm still not going to do that. Just because I need to find the way how, but what I can do is use the config. So what changes had I done in the PR? If size changing yarn for package dog for yarn. So in the core Get examples files. Was here? Yes. Type checks example. No, it's not here. Resources. What does resources do? With files. Parse files. I lost the places that I changed to do the here, so get example. Okay. Parser is the one that fails. Actually, parse files. Yes, parse file. A change in the parser. Parse model documentation. Parse module. Okay. There we go. So parse module. And the parser goes from a reader and either. There are no side effects here, but we still have a context. And what's the environment? So we could have a config here. It will be config. Yes, so yes. Okay. Something down the rail path. I need to provide the config. And config. So now I do have the config to give it to parse file. Yeah. So okay. So now in the 1 second. And back. Yes, audio is working. Okay. So what we need to do now is in the core we need this. Config. Yes. So now there are no errors. But we get the M here. So make module. And make module. Parse module documentation. Parse module documentation. It's the one we want to modify. So where is the M? On missing documentation. So if the missing, yeah. If the M config is strict, we will return this function. Otherwise, return this function. Come on, prettier. What? Either a string. What if I place it here? That works. Yes, so if it's a strict, we will fail. Otherwise, we won't. And was there something else we change? No. Okay. So we default to there is a package this has scenes, but config doesn't have package configuration, so what did our config default to? False. We default to true, this should fail. Because there are some missing things. Yes. Config doesn't have, yeah, it's missing the configuration. Okay, that's great. So this works. But now what's wrong with this? I need to figure out the reader stuff. And it's probably running, but reader is just a function, so I can run it. And we first take the reader here. So this is task either, no. Core main is this reader task either. Because reader is a function from some R to task either. Okay. So what I could do here is run with a different one. Okay. So validate config. Okay, so let's go to the docs and try to figure this out. Reader task either. There task either. Yeah, so this is the real task either. So I can call it, I get this task either, and there has to be most probably by map change task from either from task either. Yes. So validate. Actually, I don't think I can do that. I'm a bit lost with this thing. But let's keep doing things until we can figure that out. So validate. So I have these unknown. Actually, I need to merge it. Actually, partial. The config ID code should be all partial. Or, oh. Yes. So but I also want the config. Which will be a partial one, but without partial, because all configurations will be optional. So you have to remember now. Yes. Let's call this all as config. So now I actually can just merge, and I probably don't need the money. Merge. Wait. Yeah. Hello, here. Hello. So now I can merge the valid config. This is actually known, so I could transform. Yeah. So this is a merging, but I still need to figure out the way. Okay, so one thing we can check is, check this at the beginning. What if this is a number? This should log an error. Okay. There are actually a lot of type errors. Because this type is not exported. And we need to add. Okay. One less error. Core. And now it should fail on the decoding because the configuration is invalid. Yes, invalid configuration. No. And we could use this. Yeah. IoTS reporters. It gives you some nice error messages on the decoding errors. Yeah. Import IoTS reporters. Format. So we'll map with this. Now we have errors, and we'll do errors. Join new line. So now oh, not that. Yarn docs. Now it should say that it was expecting something, expecting boolean not a string, but instead got okay. That's cool. I guess we want to also say something like if a docs yes conflict. Yeah. And I think that's fine for now. So and now this will work. Yes, but we still have the problem. One more thing. If we don't have doc.ts at all, it should still succeed. Yeah. So this validates, but we still are left with this. And see. One reader. But I don't have the reader that I will be running. Yeah, of course. I assume I could do something, but actually cannot. So the problem we have, let's put it in here as a tuple. It will be config this. So config and package. So now we have the config and the package, and it's all fine. But the config is not in the context. And this is, I think I need to do some more reading about this. Nothing. So what is rewrite the vibe map? That's vibe map too. Okay, the reader stays intact, so bracket. Make sure that the resource is clean up in the event of an exception. Releases action is called regardless of whether the body action goes. No. If I run it, I get a promise. Because it runs the whole thing. No. Change first to compose the computation in sequence using the return value from computation to the next computation. Chain W. See if chain W can be used. So takes a function that goes from A to reader doesn't seem like basically this is this. And if I run it, basically what I'm thinking is if I could do something like this, where I get this, then the reader is this, right? No? Yeah. This is what I'm thinking I could. So this takes the C and gives it to here. But in like this. So what I'm saying is maybe I could do the config here. So now this gets updated config. That's not how it should be done. But it works. So now and to prove that that works, it maybe doesn't. Package JSON, strict false. Okay. So yarn docs, yes, it should work. But now, what if I say true? Remember that default is also false. Yeah, that worked. But I don't think that's the best way to do it. I'll probably ask in the FPTS channel. But I'll leave it to do here. Find a way to modify the context without this hack. Hey, but this does the trick. So now I could continue with the parsing of, yes, so basic configuration, it's include and exclude. Okay, put mode. Path include the modules path. Okay, and I think so. What changed in SRC? We now the parser now has the configuration in the environment and can use it. That's cool. The SRC puts a config, which I'll revert to how it was. This is just core capabilities, not the function. So in the index we have the default capabilities. We do this hack to modify the configuration context. We validate the config. If it's missing, doesn't matter. And that's it. There. Namespace for what? Capability. What? Typos. I changed in docs. Huh. Yeah, the type signatures of everything that has packet JSON. Actually. Packet JSON. If it's unknown, then it can be anything, so it doesn't make sense that is optional. And the last thing I want to check is kind of doesn't make sense to have the monoid anymore, because we are not gonna combine the merge, because it's two different types. We cannot merge them, right? We cannot concat them, sorry. So I'll just define this as default config. Yes. No monos were used. Okay. I'll make these, yeah, strict. Yarn docs, and a bunch of things should fail. I want to add them. Scenes in config default config. Okay. Yes. Documentation for config module. Why didn't we get 2 errors? Yeah. Git config okay. So I still need to figure out the reader thing, but I'll ask that, and I have 5 more minutes so I can ask. Okay. Five, nine. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do with reader, but docs. I'm ignoring these. Docs. 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 IoTS reporters. Oh, I overridden. I overrode the packet JSON probably when I did the configs that Jan had written. Fix. Yes. So the question is from this. Have an app using reader task type context type place utilities to read files and do some other effects. The thing is, those capabilities actually well, could change the structure of the application altogether, but okay. Place a bunch of utility to read files and do some other effects. But and also a configuration option. No. Context to have a configuration option. I think I need to find a better way to ask the question. So that will be all for today. So I did manage to have the app running with some basic configuration, and we're able to skip or enforce the requirement on the module. Next should be all of these guys. That's for later. Bye and thank you for joining.